The Torah in this week's Parsha tells us about the mitzvos of Shemitah, the sabbatical year, and Yovel, the Jubilee year. Shemitah is that every 7 years we rest from the ground, we don't work the ground, we don't plow, we don't plant. And Shemitah, on the Jubilee year, after 7 years, 7 cycles of 7 years, we have the Yovel, the Jubilee year, and in that year also they would not work in fields. And in addition, all the slaves, if there were any slaves, would be freed, and any lands that were purchased would go back to their owners. This cycle of 7 cycles of 7 years leading up to the 50th year is eerily similar to the days of the Omer, where we count 7 weeks of each 7 weeks, which is 7 periods of 7 days till we get to the 50th day of Shavuos. What's the connection between this Yovel and Shemitah cycle and the days of the Omer leading up to Shavuos? So the days of the Omer are not only days where we count down till we get the Torah, not only days of counting down to this momentous event, but they're also days of growth. The Jewish people at the time when they left Mitzrayim, they were on a very low spiritual level, and therefore they needed to use this time to better themselves, to make themselves holier, to improve themselves, to grow, until on the 50th day, when they got to Har Sinai, to Mount Sinai, they were ready to accept the Torah. Us as well, every year on Shavuos, we re-accept the Torah, and therefore we need to use this opportunity to once again grow and prepare ourselves to grow spiritually in order that we're now fitting to accept the Torah. A similar thing could be said about Shemitah and Yovel as well. The Sefer HaChinuch tells us that one of the reasons why we have these mitzvos because these mitzvos are they're opportunities for growth, they're opportunities for us to improve our emunah, our faith in Hashem. During the Yovel year, when anything a person bought, any land that a person bought would go back to its original owner, and any Jewish slaves that a person had would go free. It's an opportunity to grow in our faith in Hashem and to grow in the recognition that everything in the world is owned by Hashem, and there is no such thing as human beings owning something independent of Hashem. The Shemitah year as well. When a person goes a whole year without working their fields, without plowing, without planting, it's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for a person, again, to grow in their emunah, in their faith in Hashem. And if a person could take that year off from working their fields, and could use that opportunity to do a little self-introspection, to look at their lives, look at the lives where their lives are headed, it's a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. I think many of us would love that opportunity to be able to take a year off from all our responsibilities, to not go to work and just be able to focus on our avodas Hashem, our divine service. That would be such an amazing opportunity. But many of us, to take just a year off, it would be impossible. Financially, we just wouldn't be able to handle it. And the truth is, maybe some of the people who were keeping Shemitah had similar concerns. Maybe the Torah tells us that Vim Tomar, if you're going to say, V'chisomru, when you will say, Manocha b'shana shvius, what am I going to eat in the 7th year? How could I go a full year without working my field? Says the Torah, V'tzivisias berchasi. Hashem says, I'm going to command my blessing on your crops the year before, so that you'll have enough for that year. That Hashem says, I want you to take this year off. I want you to take this year to focus on your divine growth. I want you to take this year to focus on your divine service and your spiritual growth. And if you're going to ask me, well, financially, how could I do it? Hashem says, don't worry. I got this covered. You have nothing to worry about. And although this promise that Hashem makes to the person who's keeping Shemitah is not an all-across-the-board promise for any of us to just go ahead and take off a year from our work and focus on our avodas Hashem, as amazing as that would be, I still think this promise is something that's very applicable to us. You see, in the current situation that we find ourselves in, we find ourselves challenged. Some financially challenged, like people who had to keep Shemitah. People who are out of work, people who have reduced work, people who have new expenses that they didn't have before. And for those of us who are not challenged financially, then we're challenged in other ways. We're challenged by the extra stress of having our children out of school, by the lack of social interaction, even spiritually, by not being able to go to shul and by not being able to learn. But it's also a tremendous opportunity for spiritual growth. We can become better people. We can become kinder people. We can become more patient people during this time. And I think Hashem is saying to all of us, I know you have challenges, but v'tzivisi berachasi, I'm going to command my blessing to be upon you. Don't worry about your challenges. I have those covered. I want you to use this opportunity for spiritual growth. I said this story earlier this week, but I'd like to repeat a beautiful story that I heard from Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson. He said that after Auschwitz was liberated, there was a certain Jewish chaplain who was going around the camps and he was talking to all the survivors. And he met one particular survivor who was sobbing uncontrollably. So he went over to him and he said, please tell me what's wrong. And he expected him to talk to him about the horrors that he had been through, about the pain, the suffering, the loved ones that he had lost. But the man said to him something very, very different. The man said to this chaplain, he said, I've been through terrible suffering, unimaginable. Can't put words to the Gehenna that I've just been through. The way we were treated, it was inhumane, it was terrible, it was horrible. But there was one thought which I kept in my mind, which kept me going the whole time. I thought that although I have to go through this terrible situation, I said to myself at the end, there's going to be the ultimate geula. This is going to lead into the time of ultimate redemption. And then we'll understand what's going on. And then we'll understand why this all happened. And then we'll have the ultimate revelation from Hashem. But instead of Eliyahu HaNavi, Elijah the prophet, and the Mashiach coming to our concentration camps, instead it was the Soviet soldiers who liberated us. And he said, now I'm afraid that if this is not going to bring us into a time of the ultimate geula, of the ultimate redemption, I'm afraid that it's just going to be back to life as normal. And that's something that I don't want to happen. You know, the days of the Omer, the 7 times 7, the 7 weeks of the Omer lead into a time led up to a time where there was an amazing revelation at Mount Sinai. And we hope this time, again, this time of growth, just like the time of the Omer, also leads to that ultimate redemption. However, if this time is not going to lead into the time of the ultimate redemption, let's make sure of one thing. Let's make sure that when this is over, we've grown. Let's make sure when this is over, we've improved ourselves, we've bettered ourselves, and it's not just back to life as normal. Have a good Shabbos.